The white gloves fell during communion, hitting the floor with a soft thud that shouldn't have been audible in a sanctuary full of 200 worshippers. But everyone heard it. In that sacred silence, with heads bowed and prayers whispered, those gloves falling felt like thunder. And when I looked up to see whose hands they'd slipped from, I saw her face, the head usher, Sister Monica Barnes, staring directly at my husband with an expression I'd never seen on anyone's face in church before. It was hunger and recognition, and something that looked dangerously close to ownership. She shouldn't have been standing there during communion. Ushers were supposed to be seated once they'd served the elements, and white gloves were supposed to stay on until service ended. But there she stood, hands bare, gloves on the floor at her feet, and my husband, Pastor David Crawford, froze mid-prayer like he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. If what I suspected in that moment was true, I would lose everything. My position as First Lady of Cornerstone Fellowship Church, the respect I'd built over 17 years of ministry, the marriage I'd defended to everyone who'd warned me that marrying a pastor meant sharing him with an entire congregation, my faith in the institution I'd given my life to. But by the end of that communion service, I would know the truth. And those white gloves would tell me everything I needed to know about the woman who'd been wearing them, and the man I'd been married to for 20 years. My name is Minister Patricia Crawford. I'm 55 years old, and I've been First Lady at Cornerstone Fellowship Church for 17 years, ever since my husband David was called to pastor this congregation. Before that, we'd been associate pastors together at a larger church across town. We built this ministry from the ground up, started with 40 members meeting in a rented storefront. Now we had our own building, 250 members, a full choir, active ministries, and a reputation in the community as a church that did things right. Being First Lady wasn't just a title I wore on Sundays, it was my calling. I led the Women's Intercessory Prayer Ministry. I organized the annual Women's Conference. I counseled young wives about submission and older women about perseverance. I modeled what a godly marriage looked like, or at least I thought I did. David and I met in Bible college. We were both 22, both on fire for ministry, both committed to serving God together. He was handsome, tall, dark brown skin, a voice that commanded attention when he preached. I was quiet, studious, the kind of woman who supported from behind the scenes. We got married right after graduation and went straight into ministry. We had 3 children. Marcus, who's 32 now and works in IT in another state. Janelle, who's 29 and teaches high school. And Timothy, who's 26 and just got married last year. Good kids, all saved, all serving in their own churches. The kind of children that made other parents ask us what we did right. And for 20 years, I believed we'd done everything right. That first Sunday of the month, Communion Sunday, I'd arrived at church early the way I always did. 6:30 in the morning, 2 hours before anyone else, to make sure everything was perfect. I checked the communion table, white linen cloth pressed and laid just right, silver trays polished, grape juice poured into the tiny cups, unleavened bread broken into small pieces and covered with another white cloth. Everything was in order. The ushers started arriving around 8 o'clock. Sister Monica Barnes came in first, as she always did. She was the head usher, had been for 12 years. Mid-40s, attractive in that put-together way some church women have. Hair always done, makeup subtle but perfect, clothes modest but fitted. She carried herself with authority. When she gave instructions to the other ushers, they listened. She was wearing her white usher uniform that morning. White skirt suit, white blouse underneath, white stockings, white shoes, and white gloves, the kind with pearl buttons at the wrist. All the ushers wore them during communion service. It was our tradition, a sign of reverence, a reminder that we were handling sacred elements. I'd seen those gloves 1,000 times, never thought twice about them. "Good morning, First Lady," Sister Monica said, her voice warm and respectful. "Everything looks beautiful as always." "Thank you, Sister Monica. Did you get the new communion trays I ordered?" "Yes, ma'am. They're in the supply closet. I'll have the ushers set them out." She smiled at me. That same smile she'd been giving me for 12 years, and I smiled back, completely oblivious. I didn't understand then what those white gloves meant, but I do now. The service started at 10 o'clock. David stood at the pulpit in his ministerial robe, black with gold trim, dignified and pastoral. He welcomed everyone, called for the opening hymn, led us in prayer. I sat in my usual spot, first pew, right side, directly in his line of sight. Mother Williams, the oldest mother of the church, sat beside me. She was 89, sharp as ever, and had been at Cornerstone since before David and I arrived. "You feeling all right, First Lady?" she whispered during the second hymn. "Yes, ma'am. Why?" "You look troubled." I wasn't. Not yet. But Mother Williams had a gift for sensing things before they fully manifested. She'd been in church long enough to recognize when something was off, even when the person experiencing it didn't know yet. David preached that morning about covenant, about commitment, about keeping your word before God and man. It was a powerful message. I'd heard him preach it before. He recycled sermons sometimes, most pastors did, but that morning it hit differently. Maybe because of the way he kept glancing at Sister Monica, who was standing at the back of the sanctuary with the other ushers, ready to serve communion. Or maybe because of the way she kept looking at him. Not the way ushers usually looked at pastors, with respect and reverence, but the way a woman looks at a man she knows intimately. I pushed the thought away, told myself I was being paranoid. Sister Monica was married, had been for 20 years, same as me. Her husband, Brother Leonard Barnes, was a deacon in our church, sat 3 rows back, same spot every Sunday. Good man, faithful, served without complaint. After the sermon, David called for communion. "Let us come to the table of the Lord with clean hands and pure hearts," he said. "Examine yourselves, confess your sins, and partake of these elements, remembering the sacrifice of our Savior." The choir began singing "At Calvary" softly. The ushers moved to the front. Sister Monica directed them with small gestures, 2 to the left side, 2 to the right, 2 down the center aisle. She took a tray herself and started serving the first few rows. I closed my eyes, preparing my heart to receive communion, asking God to search me, to reveal any sin, to help me come to his table worthily. That's when I heard it, the soft thud of something hitting the carpeted floor. I opened my eyes. Sister Monica was standing 3 rows behind me, frozen. The communion tray was still in her left hand, but her right hand was bare, trembling so badly the glove had simply slipped off. And she wasn't looking at the glove. She was looking at my husband with an expression of such raw guilt and longing that it made the air feel thick. David had been praying at the pulpit, leading us in the communion meditation. But he'd stopped mid-sentence, was staring at Sister Monica with an expression I'd never seen on his face before, panic mixed with something else, something that looked like guilt. The sanctuary had gone completely silent. 250 people with their eyes that should have been closed, now watching Sister Monica standing there with one glove on, one glove off, her hand shaking, watching my husband staring at her, watching the strange electricity between them that everyone could suddenly feel. Mother Williams' hand found mine, squeezed tight. Sister Monica bent down slowly, picked up the glove, and put it back on. Her hands were still shaking. Then she continued serving communion like nothing had happened. But something had happened. I just didn't know what yet. After service, I stood in the fellowship hall the way I always did, greeting members, smiling, asking about their week. David stood beside me, shaking hands, hugging the elderly sisters, laughing with the deacons. We looked like the perfect pastoral couple. But I kept watching Sister Monica. She was in the corner, directing the ushers as they cleaned up, put away the communion trays, folded the white cloths. She'd taken her gloves off now, both of them, and set them on a table while she worked. I walked over. "Sister Monica, are you all right? I saw your glove fall during communion." She looked at me, really looked at me, and for just a second I saw something in her eyes, something like pity, like she felt sorry for me. "I'm fine, First Lady." Just clumsy today, I guess. Have you been feeling well? You seem distracted lately. I'm fine. Her voice was firm now, defensive. Just been busy with work. You know how it is. I didn't push, but I also didn't believe her. That week, I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. On Tuesday, I went to the church office to pick up some papers for the women's conference planning meeting. The secretary, Sister Jenkins, had already left for the day, but I saw David's car in the parking lot and Sister Monica's car next to it. I went inside. The lights were off in the main office, but I could see light coming from under David's study door. I heard voices, low, intimate. I knocked. Silence. Then shuffling. Then David opened the door. "Patricia, what are you doing here?" "I came to get the conference papers." "What are you doing here?" "Counseling session with Sister Monica. She's been having some struggles with her marriage." Sister Monica appeared behind him, smoothing down her skirt. She wasn't wearing her white gloves. It wasn't Sunday, but I found myself looking at her hands anyway. Looking for a sign, a mark, something that would tell me what I was beginning to suspect. "First Lady," she said, nodding at me, "thank you for your prayers." "Of course," I said automatically. "I didn't know you and Brother Leonard were having issues." "We're working through it," she said quickly. Too quickly. She left. David walked me to my car, kissed my cheek, told me he'd be home in an hour. He came home 3 hours later. On Wednesday, we had midweek Bible study. Sister Monica was there, sitting in her usual spot, 3 rows from the front, left side, right on the aisle where she could slip out quickly if the ushers needed her for something. Her husband sat beside her, the way he always did. They looked normal, looked like a married couple who'd been together 20 years. But during prayer, I watched her, and I saw her pull something out of her purse, white gloves. She put them on during the prayer, just for a moment, ran her gloved fingers over her lips like she was remembering something, or someone, then took them off and put them back in her purse. Why would she have white gloves on Wednesday? Ushers only wore them on Communion Sunday, unless those gloves meant something else to her. Unless they were connected to something I wasn't seeing yet. Unless they'd become a ritual between her and someone else. I didn't understand then why she was carrying those gloves. But I do now. On Thursday afternoon, I was at home doing laundry. I was sorting David's clothes, shirts, pants, socks. I pulled a shirt out of the hamper and something fell out of the pocket. A pearl button. Small. White. The kind that goes on white gloves. I stood there holding that button, my mind racing. David didn't wear gloves. Never had. So why would there be a glove button in his shirt pocket? I thought about Sister Monica's gloves falling during communion, about the pearl buttons at the wrist, about how she'd been shaking so badly she'd dropped them. I put the button in my jewelry box. Didn't say anything to David that night, but I started watching more carefully. On Friday, I went to the church to set up for the women's conference planning meeting. I was early as usual. I unlocked the fellowship hall, turned on the lights, started arranging chairs. That's when I heard it. Voices. Coming from the sanctuary. I walked quietly toward the double doors, pushed one open slightly, and looked inside. David was at the altar, and Sister Monica was with him. They were standing close. Too close. And she was wearing those white gloves again. He was holding her hands, both of them, his brown hands over her white-gloved hands, and he was praying. But not the kind of prayer you pray over a church member, the kind of prayer you pray over someone you love, intimate, personal, possessive. "Lord, protect what we have," he was saying. "Protect us from those who would judge without understanding. Give us wisdom. Give us strength." Sister Monica's head was bowed. She was crying, and David was wiping her tears with his thumb, still holding her gloved hands in his. I backed away from the door, walked back to the fellowship hall, sat down in one of the chairs I'd just set up. And I knew what those white gloves meant, why she wore them even when it wasn't Communion Sunday, why they'd fallen during communion, why that pearl button was in David's pocket. The gloves were hers, but they'd become his, a symbol of whatever was between them, a ritual, a sign of intimacy that had nothing to do with ushering and everything to do with betrayal. The women's conference planning meeting happened that evening. 8 women gathered around the table: me, Mother Williams, Sister Monica, and 5 others. We discussed speakers, topics, registration fees. Everyone acted normal. Sister Monica contributed ideas, took notes, smiled at appropriate times. But I watched her hands. She wasn't wearing the white gloves. But her wedding ring was gone. "Sister Monica," I said casually, "did you lose your ring?" She looked down at her bare finger. "Oh, no, I took it off to do dishes this morning and forgot to put it back on." But her hands weren't dry or cracked, hadn't been in dishwater recently. After the meeting, Mother Williams pulled me aside. "First Lady, I need to talk to you." We went to my office, a small room off the fellowship hall with a desk, 2 chairs, and walls covered in Bible verses and photos from church events. Mother Williams closed the door. "Something's wrong. I can feel it." "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. I see it in your eyes. You're carrying something heavy." I broke, just completely broke, told her everything. The gloves falling during communion, the button in David's pocket, the prayer I'd overheard in the sanctuary, the missing wedding ring. Mother Williams listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "How long have you suspected?" "Since Sunday, since the gloves fell." "And you haven't confronted him?" "I need to be sure. I need proof." "Sister Patricia, you already have proof. You're just afraid to name it." She was right. I was afraid. Because naming it made it real. Made it something I'd have to deal with. Made it something that would destroy my marriage, my position, my entire life as I knew it. "What do?" I asked. "You pray, and you watch. And when God gives you the moment, and He will give you the moment, you speak the truth, no matter who it hurts, no matter what it costs." That Sunday was the 3rd Sunday of the month. Not Communion Sunday, just regular worship. I arrived at church with David, sat in my usual spot, went through all the motions. But I was watching. Watching Sister Monica in her white usher uniform, no gloves today, not Communion Sunday. Watching David preach about holiness and righteousness. Watching the way he carefully didn't look at her during the entire service. After church, during fellowship, I saw them. Just for a moment. Sister Monica went to the restroom. 2 minutes later, David excused himself to check something in his study. I followed him, not to his study, to the women's restroom hallway, where Sister Monica was waiting, where he took her hand, where she leaned into him, where they stood together in a way that left no doubt. I cleared my throat. They jumped apart. "Sister Monica," I said, my voice calm, controlled, "I think you should go home to your husband." She looked at David, then at me, then walked past me without a word. David started to speak. "Patricia." "Not here," I said. "Not now. We'll talk later." I walked back to the fellowship hall, smiled, greeted people, played my role. That night at home, David tried to explain. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." "She's been going through a hard time. Her marriage is falling apart. She needed someone to talk to, someone to pray with. It got complicated." "Complicated." I said the word like it tasted bad. "You're having an affair with the head usher, and you call it complicated." "I'm not having an affair." "Then what are you doing, David? Because I saw you holding her hands in the sanctuary, praying over her like she's your wife. I found a button from her gloves in your pocket. I watched her gloves fall during communion while she stared at you like you belonged to her." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "I love you, Patricia. I do. But Monica, she sees me in a way you stopped seeing me years ago. She makes me feel alive again, young again, like I matter for more than just being a pastor." "So you betrayed our marriage because I don't make you feel special enough?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know how to fix this. I'm saying I made a mistake. I'm saying..." "How long?" Silence. "How long, David?" 8 months. 8 months. 2/3 of a year. All those communion Sundays where I'd watch Sister Monica serve the elements with her white gloves on, never knowing she'd been putting those same gloved hands in my husband's hands in private moments. Never knowing that those gloves meant something to both of them that had nothing to do with church tradition. "I'm calling an emergency deacon board meeting," I said. "Tomorrow night, you're going to confess to them. All of it. And then you're going to step down. Patricia, please. Tomorrow night, or I will tell them myself." The emergency deacon board meeting happened the next evening. 7 deacons, all men, all longtime members, gathered in the church conference room. David sat at the head of the table. I sat beside him. He confessed, told them about the affair, about the counseling sessions that became something else, about the emotional intimacy that crossed physical boundaries, about the 8 months of deception. The room was silent when he finished. Then Deacon Barnes, Leonard Barnes, Sister Monica's husband, stood up. "You were counseling my wife?" His voice was shaking. "Yes," David said quietly. "And during that counseling, you had an affair with her?" "Yes." Deacon Barnes sat back down, put his head in his hands. One of the other deacons, Deacon Wilson, spoke up. "Pastor Crawford, we're going to need to take a vote on your continued leadership. But first, is Sister Monica the only woman this has happened with?" David hesitated, just for a second. But that second told me everything. "No," he finally said. "There was one other, 4 years ago. But it only lasted a few weeks and I ended it." 4 years ago. During the time I'd thought we were solid. During the time I'd been defending our marriage to everyone who asked how we stayed strong. During the time I'd been teaching other women how to be godly wives. I stood up. "I'm stepping down as First Lady, effective immediately. I will not stand beside a man who's repeatedly broken covenant, who's used his position to prey on vulnerable women, who's made a mockery of everything we've built here. Patricia, please." David reached for my hand. I pulled away. "Don't touch me." The deacon board voted that night. Unanimous decision to remove David from pastoral leadership. They gave him 2 weeks to transition out. Asked him to submit his resignation publicly the following Sunday. Sister Monica and her husband Leonard left the church entirely. I heard later that they were trying to work through it in counseling, but I never asked for details. Didn't want to know. That next Sunday, the first Sunday of the month, Communion Sunday, I stood at the pulpit. Not as First Lady, just as Minister Patricia Crawford. "Church," I began. "You've heard by now that Pastor David Crawford has resigned. I want to be clear about why. He violated his covenant with me. He violated his covenant with this church. And he violated the trust of women who came to him for counsel. The deacon board has accepted his resignation, and he will not be returning to this pulpit." The sanctuary was silent. 250 people staring at me. "I'm not here to ask for your pity. I'm here to ask for your prayers. For me, for David, for the families affected by his choices. And I'm here to tell you that I'm staying. This is my church too. I've given 17 years of my life to Cornerstone Fellowship, and I'm not walking away because of his sins." I looked out at the congregation, saw Mother Williams nodding, saw other women crying, saw the ushers, now with a new head usher, standing at the back in their white uniforms, white gloves on, ready to serve communion. "Now let us come to the table of the Lord," I said. "Let us examine ourselves. And let us remember that God sees everything. Nothing stays hidden forever. And when the truth comes out, as it always does, we have a choice. We can run from it, or we can face it with integrity." The ushers came forward. The new head usher, Sister Denise Carter, carried the first tray. Her white gloves were pristine, clean, no pearl buttons missing. And as I took communion that Sunday, the first communion Sunday without David in 17 years, I thought about those white gloves. How they'd been such a normal part of our church tradition until they became a symbol of betrayal. How Sister Monica had worn them every communion Sunday, serving elements that represented Christ's body and blood, while carrying on an affair with a married pastor. How those gloves had fallen during communion, creating a moment of silence that exposed everything. I didn't understand then why those gloves falling mattered so much. But I do now. White gloves represent purity, holiness, reverence, everything Sister Monica and David pretended to be. And when those gloves fell, it was like God pulling back the curtain, showing everyone what had been hidden underneath the appearance of righteousness. It's been 2 years since that communion Sunday. David moved to another state. I heard he got remarried, not to Sister Monica, to someone else. I hope he's learned something. I hope he's changed, but that's between him and God now. I'm still at Cornerstone Fellowship. The deacon board asked me to serve as interim pastor until they found a replacement. I served for 8 months before a new pastor was called. Now I'm back to being just Minister Patricia Crawford, leading the women's ministry, counseling women, teaching on Sundays. And every first Sunday when we take communion, I watch the ushers serve in their white gloves. And I remember that symbols matter. That purity isn't just about appearance. That what we do in secret always finds its way to the light. And that sometimes God uses the smallest thing, a pair of white gloves falling on the floor, to reveal what needs to be revealed. There's a verse in Numbers 32:23 that says, "Be sure your sin will find you out." I used to think that verse was a threat. Now I see it as a promise. Not a promise of punishment, but a promise of exposure. Because living in hidden sin is its own kind of death. And God loves us too much to let us stay there. When those white gloves fell during communion, I thought my world was ending. And in a way, it was. The world I'd built on a foundation of lies and appearances was crumbling. But what came after, the truth, painful as it was, that was the beginning of something new, something real, something built on a foundation that couldn't be shaken. If you think that was the end of the woman in white files, it wasn't. Because 3 months after David left, I received a package at the church, no return address. Inside was a pair of white gloves, the exact kind our ushers wear, and a note that said, "She wasn't the first. She won't be the last. He's already found someone new, and she wears white too." That story, about what I discovered when I followed that lead, about the pattern I uncovered at David's new church, where a young woman in the baptismal ministry always wore white during services, and about how those baptism robes became the clue that revealed he hadn't changed at all, you need to click the next story on your screen. Because some men don't change their nature, they just change their hunting ground. And the woman in white files? They're far from over. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever had to face a truth that destroyed your world but ultimately set you free, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever noticed a small detail that unraveled everything? You don't have to share the whole story. Just let me know you're here. Because sometimes, knowing you're not alone is the first step toward healing. And subscribe to this channel. We share stories every week about faith tested, truth revealed, and what it really means to walk with God when the people you trusted most fail you. This is Minister Patricia Crawford, reminding you that white gloves can't hide dirty hands forever. Truth will always find its way to the light, and when it does, you have a choice: stay in the lie or step into freedom. Be blessed, sisters.